blowing bubbles.
Everybody, and I hope you're all as excited as this crocodile is for the sunset safari. It is an exceptionally warm day out here, and it seems as though most of the animals are lethargic, just like myself and Manu are. My name is Taylor McCurdy, and on camera with me today is Manu, and we are live from the Masai Mara. Actually, we're not in the Masai Mara, we are in the Mara Triangle at the moment, and we've been exploring all day long. Now, if you have just joined us for the first time on Safari Live, a big welcome to all of you, and you can actually chat to us. It's an interactive show, and in order to talk to us this afternoon, all you have to do is either hashtag Safari Live on Twitter, or you can have a look at this lion instead of the crocodiles, and then you can also chat to us via the YouTube chat. That was quite nice. What a great start. So we were actually with these lions this morning. This is one of the young males in the Paradise Pride. Goodness gracious, I can't wait to tell you about our adventures, but I won't tell you right now. I'll tell you about them a little bit later when we don't have any animals about. So they haven't moved very far at all from where we left them. Surely you're not going to sit on the hot rocks. Surely not, young man. You can see he's panting. It's very warm out here. Faith, could you possibly find out what the temperature is at the moment? I think it feels about 28, 29 degrees Celsius. Maybe even a bit more, maybe 31. It's one of the hotter days that we've had, but it also could just be because we've been out the entire day. Ooh. Okay, wasn't too far off. 28 degrees Celsius, 82 degrees Fahrenheit, so it is quite toasty, and there isn't much wind to cool us down. I don't think this boy is going to stay out in the open for too long. Perhaps he just disappeared from his shady spot where the rest of the pride must be, because you can see he's looking at something into the distance, and I think that's where the girls went. I don't think they moved very far at all, and I think he's making his way back there now to get nice and cool, which is a pity because he is disappearing very, very far off of the road. There's lots of animals around down by the river. I'm not surprised, really, really not surprised about that at all. It's very warm. What I'm hoping for is that we're going to get some elephants crossing the river, and that would be a real treat. We've had them over the past 2 days playing around in the luggers and the little drainages that are filled with all the rain, and it would be nice to actually see them cross. The river doesn't seem to be too high, too full either. Now, Mia, you're wondering if any of the animals out here suffer from heat stroke when it's so hot. There's an elephant for you. I'm sure they could, especially young animals that aren't quite accustomed to the climate just yet. Most certainly, we know that they do suffer from cold shock, which is a drastic temperature decrease. Normally happens overnight. We see it a lot in the Sabi sand. So I'm sure it does happen. However, the animals have worked out how to combat this. Obviously, it's quite difficult to get warm, but it's easier to get cool because you can sit in water, you can sit in some mud, you can flap your ears if you're a big elephant to try and cool yourself down, or if you're a lion you can pant and lay in the shade. So they've all got different ways to try and cool themselves down. So I would say that maybe not as often as what we think. I think they are accustomed to the heat out here, and actually more so in the Sabi sand in South Africa. There it gets exceptionally hot and really humid, and on days like that you won't really see much. You won't even see too many birds out and about. They'll all be hiding away in the shade of the trees. But that hasn't stopped one particular bird this afternoon. Just in front of us on the rocks, on that bright green shrub, is my friend, the rufous-naped lark, who is singing his heart out this afternoon. Very typical of a lark. But I think he's obviously risking being out there. Perhaps he's looking for a mate, or maybe declaring his territory to the other birds that are around. But I would not like to be standing out. And actually, I'm sitting in the sun. Manu, let's change slightly. The lion is about to disappear, but look who else is braving the heat now. Not only the rufous-naped lark. It's a hippopotamus. Hello, hippopotamus. That is a big hippo. I'm kind of envious because that's what I'd like to be doing. I'd like to be laying in between some of those rocks, cooling down quite nicely. That would be really, really nice. Look at those little stumpy legs that a hippo has, compared to the massive size of their body. Oh, careful, those rocks might be a bit slippery. I don't know if a hippo has got great 4x4 tread, and especially to combat slippery rocks. I know that not even my branded running shoes can tackle some of the slippery rocks that we go running on. So you can see that hippo is taking it nice and easy this afternoon. Ah, shame, Jenny, that's not very nice. You said that maybe we can add this hippopotamus to the ugly 5 list. But they're so cute when they're little, not so much when they're this size. Impressive animals, though. That's very, very nice to see that hippo coming out. You can also get an opportunity to actually see the feet. We normally see the tracks in the sand and in the mud, and it's not often that we get to actually have a good look at what their feet look like. And it's nice that it's such a... Oh, hello! Now, not only can you see a hippo's feet today, you can also inspect their teeth and their tonsils. If it were to face us, and you could look down its throat. But the rest of the hippo are just relaxing in the water. A little bit later, they'll get a bit more active and probably play around a little bit. Now, this is actually one of my favorite pods of hippos. I come here often, and I often send people to this spot when they say, what should we do on our afternoon safari, and say they've had a really nice lion sighting already. I always say, come around to this crossing, to the main crossings, and sit and watch this pod of hippos. It's quite a big group. There's lots of youngsters. And then, of course, you get to see hippos out of the water too, just moving around, and during the day, which is really cool. So the photographers will be happy about that. Right now, of course, if you were watching, you would have seen that we did an action broadcast earlier with Ralph, and he did lose comms, but he's back in action again. Let's go see what those lions are up to.
Yes, thank you, Taylor. And I know we don't have the picture on the lions right there, but this elephant was really part of an extremely dramatic scene that has just happened here, where we are sitting. Archie and I, as I say, my name is Ralph Kirsten, and we've got Archie on the camera, and sorry if I seem a little bit shaky, but we've had an extremely crazy little scene that's just happened. Archie and I had a very calm afternoon. We were driving around, exploring the area, and it was very quiet, and we came up the road, and we spotted a female lioness coming through the grass, so we immediately stopped, and once she crossed the road, another one appeared, and then there was a third that appeared, and then behind the third female, a male appeared, and off they started going up the mountain. And I don't know if Archie's going to be able to spot, they're still moving up the mountain, but what happened, as we were sitting there watching, we saw them stalking, and so we moved in a little bit closer, and that elephant was grazing happily nearby, and these lions spotted some warthogs, and they chased and grabbed and killed one, the females, and the male who was coming up from behind, he ran in and immediately stole that kill that they had just made. And with the elephant who was grazing nearby, he saw all of this happen, and he came charging in to try and chase them off. And so the male lion, he grabbed the kill and ran for cover away from the elephant. The elephant followed him, trumpeting and carrying on, and it was right up to next to the vehicle, and eventually he left the lion alone after much protest, and the females being left empty-handed now. So they are obviously still very hungry. They've headed up a little bit up the escarpment. There was some topi there which have bounded off, and I don't suggest that they should be going after them right now, because those topi are very fast, and they would have to ambush them if they were going to catch them because of their speed. Now, they're still moving a little bit up the escarpment. We're trying to keep our eye on them, and the reason I haven't followed right in behind them is because this is just, as Murphy's Law states, in the dead zone of our signal. So we've actually got to hang back a little bit, try and watch them from a distance, and hopefully they might come back down a little bit into our signal zone, and we'll be able to watch some more action. But for now, I think this is one of those scenes that we're not going to disappear from just yet, because there might be some more coming. So, and that elephant, he's still looking up with disgust. Now, Scarlett, you're wondering how far elephants will travel for food. Well, out here in the Masai Mara, they don't need to travel far at all, because most of the time they can feed wherever they are. As this elephant is indicating, there is grass all around him, and it is juicy red grass, red oat grass, as well as finger grass. So very good juicy grass that is good for him, and he'll also have a little munch on some of the shepherd's trees and even the ballanet teas, but they really do like the Boschia albitranca or shepherd's tree leaves. They are one of their favorites. So this elephant, he did, after his protest with the lions, he went for a little drink, and now he seemed to have settled down a little bit after all the chaos, and getting back to a little bit of grazing. Wow, that is such a peaceful scene after what has just happened. It's quite incredible that you would imagine what has just gone down. And now he's gone all calm and relaxed. Now, Sue, you're wondering if the lions would ever gang up and attack the elephant. Well, Sue, there are a lot of instances where lions do attack and kill elephants, and actually some of them specialize in hunting them. But this particular group of lions, I think it's too small a group for them to try and tackle even if it's a young bull elephant, a mid-range, a middle-aged bull elephant. He's still of quite a size, and I don't think that they would be able to take him on. So with him charging at the lions, they immediately scattered because it was a very one-sided competition there. But if there were more lions, they could definitely gang up on an elephant, but it would generally be around food and hunting. It's very often that you do get elephants chasing lions off kills, especially when they witness it and they witness the lions running towards them or near them. They'll then trumpet and charge at them and try and disperse them. So, which is exactly what happened here. Now, it's still a very hot afternoon. Now, originally, you're wondering, a very good question, have animals learned to stay around elephant for protection? Well, it's another one of those. Animals will hang around each other because of the extra eyes and ears. Whether it's for protection in specific from the elephant, I'm not so sure, because they also run away when the elephants run at them as well. So they do sort of understand the size and strength of an elephant, and you do get a lot of animals hanging around each other in aggregations for extra eyes and ears, and some that are in quite particular is the baboons and impala. You very often find them together, and you very often find wildebeest and zebra together. So there are small little adaptations that make animals move with particular other species. And with the impala and baboon, it's in particular because they do frequent similar habitats, and baboons then obviously climb up the trees, and they're adding that elevated point of view for alarming. And the impala have got such good eyes and ears that it helps the baboons in that position as well. With the zebra and wildebeest, obviously it's mostly to do with what they feed on. It's both of them are grazers, but the zebra, they like they'll graze on a lot more hardy grasses, and they cut or mow the grass down for the wildebeest. So you're getting interactions and different animals hanging around each other, which it normally is around benefits, but animals hanging around elephant in particular for protection, not in particular, no. So these lions have still moved up the escarpment, and I'm going to try and relocate them and hopefully get us into a good position for that with signal. Hopefully we can bring you some more action, but in the meantime let's go over to Taylor, who's also looking for a little bit of action.
I guess so. We're looking for animal action. Yep, that's what's happening this afternoon. Okay, so let me tell you a little bit about what we've seen today. Oh, goodness gracious. Okay, let me stop acting like a 16-year-old. So we've basically been all the way down to the Tanzanian border. We posed. Manu did a headstand, which I may show you a picture of a little bit later, on the Tanzanian border signs. Naughty, naughty. And then we found the border boys, the two cheetah males that we were talking about in the morning. What else did we see? Then we saw about 20 or 30 hyena devouring a buffalo carcass, which was really cool, but we didn't have any signal or any comms there, which was a bit sad, but that's just one of those things. That's a giraffe. There's many giraffe out today, actually more than I've seen in a very, very long time. And then we had the lions obviously towards the end of the show, and just after the show had finished, one of the lionesses went off and somehow caught a warthog piglet, but far away. We didn't even hear it because the wind was gusting, and you can see that's changed completely now. The wind has dropped, but that's quite typical for the Mara. It reminds me very much of Port Elizabeth in South Africa. It's either windy in the morning or the afternoon, one or the two. You don't really we don't have too many still days out here, but that's all right. Sometimes the breeze is pleasant, and I kind of wish we had one today. I think a lot of the animals wish for a nice cool breeze too. Now, Scarlett, you've asked a question with regards to animals resting during the day when it's so hot. Most of them do sit up and rest, whether it's, for instance, like a topee. They do most of their grazing in the early morning and the afternoon, and then they typically, well, the males will stand up on termite mounds, and there is actually a topee standing up on a termite mound just to the right of that giraffe. So then they'll rest like that. They don't necessarily sit down. And then you'll get things like buffalo and wildebeest will find a nice shady spot and have a rest during the day. Elephants might have a little siesta if they can find a tree tall enough to cast a shadow. And giraffe will do the same thing. We often see them sitting down and resting for a short while. Is that a giraffe that's sitting down over there, Manu? Those youngsters? I think it might be. Nature's working for me today. Everything I'm saying I'm able to show you. That does not happen very often. So there's a young giraffe just resting up. But again, depending on the animal's age, like if this is a young giraffe, it's obviously going to get quite tired and hasn't got quite the strength and stamina that an adult has. So they will need to rest for longer periods. The same thing goes with little elephants too. The adults might stand and feed, and the little ones will lay in the shadow of the adults to keep nice and cold. Now, Brad, you're wondering how on earth you tell how old a giraffe is. It's pretty difficult. It takes a bit of practice and experience, like most things with aging animals. Obviously, we're not always around to see their births. So with young giraffe, their ossicones take about 6 months or so to actually fuse. And then you can also see their umbilical cord stays on their belly for a few weeks to about 2 months or so as well. And then then you just sort of guess. Like, for instance, this giraffe over here looks to be an adult. So I would say that she's probably around, I don't know, let's guess about 15 years old. Between maybe 12 and 15 years old. But again, I'm just guessing. She could be older. She could look very young for her age. You know, you get humans that are like that. Maybe she looks older than what she actually is. I have absolutely no idea. But what I do know is that it looks like she's bearing a calf, though. You can see her belly's got quite a bulge to it. It's becoming quite round. And I think that there is a youngster I think there's a youngster in there. Still early stages though. Very cool though. Let's carry on. Let's see what else we can find. What I would like to do today is head down towards the marsh, because I think that the marsh could be a winning spot for a variety of different animals, from elephants splashing around, warthogs wallowing, buffalo probably joining in, and hopefully we will also find some lions and lots of birds. Now, Trista, you're wondering how many vertebrae do giraffe have? Well, in their necks they've got 7, just like you and I, just 7 really big ones, and that's quite a cool thing to see. My giraffe, in fact, if you are fortunate enough to come across a giraffe carcass, is to investigate the bones and how large they are. Maybe next time James goes into the tent, or someone goes into the tent at Djuma, there's a couple of giraffe bones that you could have a look at. The giraffe skull is pretty cool, and I don't know if there are any vertebrae, but there's definitely a couple of giraffe carcasses around in the Sabi sand. We can't go walking here, so I'm sure there's plenty around. It's just the grass is very long and we can't get out of the car, so I wouldn't be able to take you and show you anyway. So yeah, so I think that's our plan for the afternoon, is to go towards the marsh. I think that's going to be a good spot. Might see some hyenas again. Lots and lots of different creatures. I think we'll be enjoying the nice wet areas. Ah, who have we got? Egyptian geese. Let's have a look at the Egyptian geese. I don't think I've looked at an Egyptian goose for a long time, other than shouted at them as I drive past. I do that often, because they make lots of noise, so I make lots of noise back at them. It doesn't really work though, it doesn't actually do anything. Hello, Egyptian geese. And they're just out grazing at the moment. They don't seem to mind the sun too much, but when they do get a bit hot, of course they can just pop into the water and have a little swim, and that'll cool them down quite nicely. You're very quiet for Egyptian geese, for a change. There you go, going into the water now to wait. Oh no, just munching on some grass and walking around. Very cool. Always nice to have a look at them. Now, Vem, you're wondering if the Egyptian geese mate for life? Yes, they are. They are monogamous. However, if one of the pairs dies, they will go in search of another mate. They're not just going to mourn after their partner for the rest of their life. They need to, and they know how important it is to constantly keep breeding. So they will go off and find another mate. There's when we obviously have the drone up in the sky, it's really nice to see the Egyptian goose nest at Chitwa Dam. That's one of my favorite things, and I really enjoyed that about the TV show. But let's keep on moving, because we're actually quite far away. We're right down, obviously we're on the river. We've come from Serena. We had some ice cream today. It was delicious. I probably still got some chocolate ice cream around my face. It was so worth it, because I am so sunburned. You have absolutely no idea how sunburned I am. It's not great. And I put so much sunscreen on as well, but it was just too hot. And then we decided that we were exhausted and we needed some sugar to help us through the afternoon safari. So we went, and then we had ice cream. Manu, what flavor did you have? Mango and vanilla is the flavor that Manu had. I had chocolate and strawberry. It was delicious. It was so good. And then what else did we have? That's all we've had. We've eaten rubbish the whole day. Snacks. Just been snacking. It's been one of those days. So I'm going to have to be chased around camp a little bit with a whip tonight before I'm allowed dinner. And maybe up and down the hill a few times. Maybe Kumas the hippo will be able to chase us around. That's the camp hippo. Anyways, we're going to keep on going in that direction towards the marsh. Ralph has managed to reposition, and I think he's got a better view of those lions.
Thanks, Taylor. I did have a better view of these lions. We've managed to come up a little bit up the side of the escarpment here, but they have just gone flat in the shade of this lovely tree here. So there they are, if you can imagine what lions look like lying in the grass. Somebody needs to mow it for us and we'd better be able to see them. But I do think that we do need to hang around here a little bit, because those females were heavily disappointed with the male having stolen that warthog from them. Now I'm just going to try get in a little bit closer so that we can actually see them in the long grass. I don't want to disturb them, but we do want to be able to see them, and hopefully they're going to go back on the hunt again, because those females are hungry. Now, Sue, I know that it's Sue asking a question there, but as I have said, we are in a little bit of a difficult spot for signal, so I'm just going to check if they can send me that question again for Sue. I think what that was, Sue, was what is the lion's strongest defense? Sorry, Archie, did you hear that? Sense. Okay. All right. Sorry, Sue. We're up on the side here, and it's a bit difficult to hear. But what is their biggest sense? I would say a lot to do with their smell. That is obviously one of their biggest scents and senses, the smell, and then obviously in the evening, at night, also their hearing and their sight does play a small role. But I would definitely say that most animals in the bush use scent and hearing as their biggest senses in the field. So, like I said, there are 3 females with 1 young male here, and wow, what an amazing experience that was. Shame for the little warthog, but and shame for the females that actually did all the work there, and the male just followed up behind and stole all the food. And he finished that food within 5 minutes. It was literally just a snack. He gobbled it down and then followed up after the females again to try and see what else they're going to catch for him. So he's got food on tap at the moment. I wonder how much longer that's going to last, because he looks like he's coming into his own nicely, and I wonder when some of the big males are going to possibly chase him out. So he might be enjoying his last few meals that are handed to him on a plate. Now, Ladybird, you're wondering, what have I found the biggest differences between the Mara and Djuma? Well, Ladybird, I think it's the biggest thing for me has been the ease at which you can see here in the Mara and the open plains. I mean, obviously in Djuma, it's a lot smaller area, and you actually do have quite a big concentration of predators, but it's very difficult to see through the much more dense vegetation and thickets that you get in Djuma. So I think for me that's the biggest difference. Here we've got the river, the Mara River, and alongside it there it's quite thick, but otherwise it's big open plains dotted with acacias or the vachili and the balanites and shepherd's trees, all dotted in a real savanna setting. So that for me being the biggest difference. But I can say that it is absolutely stunning from up here, looking at that savanna view and the trees dotted along on the plains. There is a little bit of building now of thunderstorms. We've been having rain every afternoon since I've been up here in the Mara. It's heading towards a week or so. So that is it's probably going to happen again, I would imagine, this afternoon. But it is quite hot for the moment as we go in there, and we can see the evidence that there are some lions there with the grass just moving around. Unfortunately, we can't show you them nicely, but I'm sure in not too long, as it starts cooling down, we might see a little bit more movement and action from them. So although they are stationary at present, I would like to stay here. Now, Scarlett, you're wondering, that's quite a good question, Scarlett. Would the water also in the Mara River also be warm? Well, the Mara River originates in the Kenyan highlands, and it only runs for about 250 miles before it gets dumped into Lake Victoria in Tanzania. So it's not a very long river in terms of length of rivers, but we are quite elevated here. We are quite high up. We're over a mile above sea level in altitude. So this river, it doesn't cool. It doesn't warm up as some of the rivers in Limpopo province of South Africa, or in that very northeastern section of South Africa. And there the water is normally very warm, and so warm that sometimes it's actually like bath water. But here the water is quite a bit cooler, even though we're only 1 degree south of the equator. It's that altitude that makes the big difference. So yes, the water here a little bit cooler than down in Limpopo, where Djuma is situated. Well, right on the border between Limpopo and Mpumalanga. So if you think Olololo is a tongue twister, try Mpumalanga. That's another one for anybody that doesn't live in South Africa. It can be quite difficult to say. And I don't know if Archie can see, just up in the sky there, we've got a lovely bird of prey that looks to be like a crowned eagle, if I'm not mistaken, just looking at it very quickly. No, it looks like a black-breasted snake eagle. Black-chested, black-breasted, I'm not sure which one they've changed to now, but that definitely looks like one of them. So that's nice to see too. And we're just hearing little rustles in the grass every now and then. So sorry for that, but that's lions for you. You get lots of action and then lots of sleeping, lots of snoozing. I don't want to sit here and just watch grass though for the whole afternoon. Okay, so while I sit here and hope that this grass stops moving and they actually stand up, let's go over to Taylor, who I think is driving around.
We are! You've actually just come to us at the right time now. And the reason why I say this is because we're just getting into the areas, moving off the main road to start heading towards the marsh. You see there what happens when I try and look at the camera and drive. It always ends up in a disaster, and Manu goes pale when I take my eyes off of the road. So we're just coming up to the cool Mara River that Ralph was telling you about. Now I wonder if he's done research or if he's actually gone for a cheeky swim in the Mara River, which he'd be a lot braver than I would. Let's have a look here. Let's see what we got. Who's home? Oh my goodness, like nobody. Let me go forward a little bit. Oh, there's a hammerkorp. Just down there. I don't know where the hippos are. I think some of the hippos might be just hanging around in the shadier spots. But there's a couple of birds out on the bank, but they're not even feeding. They're just being very stationary at the moment. I don't think anybody's enjoying the heat at this time, and I kind of don't blame them. Is that a crocodile swimming down there? It's just gone under. Typical. There was a crocodile, but it's gone underwater now. Now, Lilu, you're wondering if the river is the only source of water? No, it's not. So it's not like, for instance, in the Mana Pools or the Lower Zambezi National Park, where the animals have to come down to this great Zambezi River to drink during the drier months. Out here, there's actually plenty of water. A lot of the luggers, the drainage lines will fill up. There's massive wallows. And then, of course, all the runoff coming from the top of the escarpment down and through the valleys. There's plenty water around. And if any parts do dry up, I don't think it'll be easy for the animals to dig for water here. I think it's a little bit on the tough side. It's not quite sandy down this end. But if you go to the Masai Mara National Reserve and you get towards the Sand River, that's a little bit better. That's a lot sandier, and that does actually dry up quite a bit and then the animals will be able to dig through that, and particularly the elephants will be able to dig for water. So I think it's easier for the animals to find water here than it is sometimes in the Sabi sand. Unfortunately, the natural migration route of the animals in the greater Kruger area, which would normally be to the base of the Drakensberg mountains to go and get water, and all the springs that are forming around the Drakensberg, there's now a big fence and they can't do that anymore. So it's a little bit tough for them to try and find water when they need to. My goodness, more giraffe! There's plenty. Now, handicap vision, just as we go around the Mara River, you're wondering if the water is always so muddy. I've never seen it crystal clear. The only time I've seen crystal clear water was when I was on the beaches of Waterhole. It was crystal clear water. However, even when we go safari parkouring, the water gushing down over all the boulders is also quite murky. So it doesn't seem to settle. There's quite a bit of sediment in it. And then I've accidentally drank some of that water, which I wasn't too happy about, and tasted pretty fresh in fact, but we shouldn't be drinking water without boiling it, even if it is fast flowing. But on the risky side. But here are all the giraffe I was telling you about. Oh, they're just keeping their feet nice and cool this afternoon. I feel like I could also take my shoes off and go walking through that water too. I think that would be so nice. All squishy mud between the toes. That would be great. But I'm not going to be doing that this afternoon because I'll chase all the giraffe away. Now this youngster looks like it wants to have a drink. Either that or it's trying to look at itself in its reflection or from the water. I'm not sure which one. Let's see. No, obviously it's going to have a drink. I'm just talking absolute nonsense because I've got too much energy now. Now, gremlins general, you're wondering if giraffe form coalitions and defend their territorial range. The answer to that is actually no. Giraffe have an interesting social structure. A lot of the animals out here, we see them bonding quite regularly. But the bond basically stops between a mother and a calf, and that only lasts for a few years too. We call it temporary associations. So they will see other giraffe on a regular basis, constantly passing by and greeting one another, but they don't necessarily always stay with one another. So you could see a group of 30 giraffe one day, and the next day they've all split up and gone separate ways. Looks like there's a bug or something bothering that one. And then the males, they're constantly following herds of females around, looking to see if there are any cows that are in estrus, but otherwise they just really do their own thing. It's quite bizarre, the giraffe social structure. What are they all looking at? I think there's a couple of giraffe in the forest. Maybe they're communicating with them or listening to alarm calls that we can't hear. Now, click and cluck. You're wondering if a giraffe can reach down to its feet without bending its knees. They don't actually bend their knees. They kind of do the splits. And maybe this youngster will show us. But I think there will be a little bit of play. They will bend them slightly. So, no, I don't think so. I don't think a giraffe can touch its toes like you and I could do if you were doing yoga and you were to stand up or bend over and try and touch your toes without bending your knees. I think they find it a little bit difficult. You can see there, their neck's not quite long enough. But if they splay their legs open and they just bend them forward slightly, then that's how they reach and drink water. Shall we drive through the giraffe sighting? Yes, because we need to go through it now. I'm going to carry on. There's some warthogs up ahead, some birds, and all sorts of things. So we'll keep going further and further into the marsh. Rolf is hopefully sitting under a shady tree, just like those lions. Perhaps they're about to lift their heads.
Yes, thank you, Taylor. And I am actually under some shade, and these lions also in the shade, and we've been able to reposition now and get a little bit closer to them. Now we can actually see them in the grass, and with us being a little bit closer now, we can actually see and hear all the flies that are on them, and we're close enough that the flies are actually starting to bother us. We're not too close. They are comfortable with us here, But they are also very irritated with the flies. Now I wonder how long it's going to take for them to want to go and hunt again, because with that one being unsuccessful, I'm sure they will be doing that quite soon. But maybe it's a little bit warm now, maybe they took a bit out of them. So maybe they're going to rest up a little bit in the shade, and maybe they'll try it again just now. Now, excuse me, but when I started the show, I was a little bit all over the shop because of the excitement that was there, and I forgot to mention that please join me on hashtag Safari Live on Twitter and on the YouTube live chat. Please give us your questions and your comments, as you have been, but for those of you that missed out because I didn't mention it, please get involved as we sit here watching panting lions in the grass after a fantastic scene earlier with a kill of a warthog and the elephant chasing the male lion who came up and stole the kill from the females and then proceeded to flatten it within 5 minutes. And now they've gone up into the shade and resting up a little bit. So I hope that they get up and move around soon. Now Mia, you're wondering, why did the male come up and steal the kill? Is he lazy? Well, in a way, yes, he is quite lazy. Why would you want to go and spend all the energy on making your own kill if you can wait for the females to do it and run in and take it off them? But that is generally what happens with lions. The male normally moves in and has his fill of the kill. So in this case it was quite a small kill, being that of a warthog. So he actually took the whole thing, and I do think that it was a little piglet at that. So he ran in, grabbed the whole piglet away from the females, and then went off and ate it all on his own. Normally, if it was a bigger kill like a zebra or a wildebeest or whatever, he would come in and literally get the females out the way, and he would eat his fill, and then he would allow them to come in and feed. So that's generally what happens, and in a way you can say it is lazy, but he does provide protection from other male lions as well as hyenas. But this youngster, I think, and I am going on a whim here, thinking that he is a youngster that is probably been born to one of these lionesses, and he's now coming of age, so he's starting to push his weight around a little bit. And as I have said before, I think it's not going to be long before he gets his marching orders from a dominant male that comes into this territory of these females. Whether that's a coalition of them or not, it waits to be seen. Now, Chat Noir, nice comment. Yes, these lines blend in so well that you almost can't see them. We're almost, we're within 5 meters from them. They're very relaxed with our presence, but if they didn't flick their tail, you wouldn't know that they're there. And when they crossed the road in front of us, it was literally every now and then one of them would climb onto a termite mound to obviously get a view of the grass in front of them before going back down into the grass. And that was the only time we saw them. So once they were in the grass, they literally disappear, and they are invisible. But we were only able to follow. Once the male came along, we actually followed him because we knew that he was going to follow up behind these females, and he was a little bit easier to see in the long grass. So he actually led us up here to the females. And you can see they get quite irritated with the flies. Now, Jenny, you're wondering what pride of lions these are. We have had a look at the lion prides of the area. It seems that they're either one of the sausage tree prides, I think it was the Angama, the Mugoro pride, or the border pride. It's in an area that I haven't been to before, so this is the first time I'm seeing this pride in particular, and I'm going to have to ask some of the other rangers with this young male if they know which pride this is. One of the females, and the first female that actually crossed the road, definitely looked like she was lactating. So I wonder if there aren't some cubs hidden nearby too, because she definitely looked like she had swollen mammary glands, which is good news for them. But it seems like there is a lot of cubs around with all the lions, and that is good for them, but it can lead to conflict. Now, clicks and clucks, you're wondering, how do you tell the age of lions? Well, it's all to do with how big they are and what their coat looks like. Because a male lion, for instance, his head starts widening out and he starts getting that mane at about a year old. Whereas the females, a little bit more difficult to tell, but obviously when they are very small cubs, they're quite spotty, and so as they get a little bit older, a few months down the line, they start to lose those spots, and then they go that more tawny color. So we look at a little bit of their coat, and then we look at their size, and we look at the shape of the head. And this male, with that kind of mane that he's started to get now, I would judge him at about 1.5 years, going towards 2 years old. And that's pretty much at the time when they start getting pushed out. And so he's probably having, like I said, one of the last of his free meals until such time as he can actually establish a pride for himself. He's too young for me to have dominated these females. Now, Lily, age 6, you're wondering what happens to a male if he doesn't want to leave the pride. Well, Lily, unfortunately, his mom and the dad lion that comes in, they won't give him a choice, because they want him to go out and learn all the lessons that he needs to learn so that he can be as big and strong as Daddy is. And Daddy learned to be big and strong like that by also going out on his own and learning how to hunt and learning how to survive all on his own. And that's the lessons that he needs to learn. And that's the reason why he gets chased away. So they're not very nice to him when they chase him away, but they are actually being nice by making him learn all the lessons he needs to. Right, folks, I don't think we're going to sit here the whole afternoon watching these lions chase flies away. I do think we need to move on a little bit and see what else we potentially can find. We've still got our protesting elephant in front. So as I start moving off and try not to disturb these lions, I'm going to send you over to Taylor, who is also driving, trying to find things like I am.
I feel like that's what we have to do out here. I have seen lots of animals, but they're very far away from us. So we have to still make our way around back towards the marsh, towards the forests. The reason why we're taking such a scenic route is because there's so many spots and on the roads that are so filled with mud, so I'm trying to take the easiest route. I like slipping and sliding, but today I don't feel like it too much. So we'll try and give it a skip, although I feel like if I'm going to head to the marsh, I'm going to slip and slide regardless. And there is also one crossing point that's just completely, well, it's been washed away. It's terrible. It's sort of like a double crossing. So we can't go through there anymore, so we actually have to go the long way around. I am hot, hot, hot today. It is so warm. We might get some nice birds going through here. We'll see if any of them are going to sit still. Maybe some widow birds, perhaps some long claws, and a few other things. Now, Matt, you're wondering if the Great Migration returns any time soon. Not just yet. We've still got a little bit of time before they come back. So the wildebeest have only just got back to the Serengeti now, where they will have their youngsters at the beginning of next year. And then they'll start their journey back towards the side, normally around June, July, where they start heading back into the triangle. Obviously, every year can be slightly different. It just depends on how much rain there's been, where they're going to go first. No one really knows. So they'll do that. Whee! Ooh, it's a bit bumpy. And then they'll start coming up this way. And then round about the end of July, August, we start to see a lot of wildebeest up here in this area that we're in at the moment. Right down below the escarpment road, which we climb down from Angama to get into the triangle. And it's really amazing. You don't have to go far at all. Here comes another muddy spot. Earlier I wasn't in 4x4 and I almost got stuck. I just sprayed Manu with mud. And he'll survive. He's used to it now, getting covered in mud, bouncing about. Oh, it's not nice here. Ooh, that looks scary. Whee, there we go. Just watching, making sure I don't drive myself into a silly spot. We need to go that way. Oh, here's the road. So, handicap vision, you're wondering if there are any people that are living in the Mara. Just on the outskirts. Basically up on the hills and along the escarpment. We're never going through this. Look at this crossing that's completely washed away as well now. There are lots of locals, lots of Maasai's around here. Look, this, you used to be able to cross through there. I think you used to just go straight through. But with all the rain that we've had now, it's completely washed away. It almost looks like the beavers were here, building a dam. But there's no beavers, of course, out in the Mara. So it's not them. Okay, so we have to turn around. Sorry, Manu. I brought you the wrong way. We're lost. We'll never make it out alive. They're going to have to send a helicopter to save us. Ooh. Now, Ladybird, you're wondering how deep is the... oh. No, sorry. I'm almost getting stuck in the sand. That is ridiculous. Come on now. Let me quickly get Mila out of here. That is crazy. I think my tires are filled with mud. Sorry. So the question was from Ladybird with regards to how deep is the Mara River. I haven't been in it. I think some spots will be deeper than others. Probably only a couple of meters. I wouldn't think it would be particularly deep. I was actually saying today the water looked like it was down quite a bit. We've had a bit of rain in the afternoons, but no torrential downpours. So it's quite low at the moment. Manu, where do we go? I'm so confused. You see, oh my goodness. Back-breaking bumps through this section here. It's basically like going to the chiropractor with a better view than the chiropractor's office. And it's also the same, you never quite know when it's going to click into place. Because it's so green and lush, the grass is growing particularly quickly around here, and the roads just completely vanish. And if they haven't been driven for a few weeks, and there aren't a lot of people out in the Mara at the moment, obviously it's not high season right now, and then they just completely disappear, which is no good for us. Now, I think we're on the right track now. We just need to make sure, but it's very slushy here. It doesn't look very slushy. That's just because the grass has grown over and the mud is underneath. And these roads are not taking me to where all the animals are. Right, I'm trying to think. I wonder where our favourite lionesses are going to be today. My two girls that live in the marsh. We'll check along the forest, we'll check some of these spots. They do like it around here, and because it is so hot we might be stopping and checking under all the shady trees. That would be the best bet in order to find some cats. I don't think any of them would be up and moving around unless some warthogs were to come too close to them, then most certainly. Check any hippos. No hippos, no leopards laying on the bank of that lugger. We are getting, we'll eventually get to an area where there'll be lots and lots of elephants. Remember this morning when we were driving, trying to make our way towards the Happy Valley Pride Lions? There's 5 lionesses with 7 cubs, and I showed you 2 groups of elephants, and there was also an elephant bull, and I said that they were just feeding around, and that's where we needed to go. We came back past them about 4 or 5 hours later, and they'd maybe moved 100 meters, if even that. So there's no need for them to go too far with the marsh being so lush at the moment. They really are enjoying it. Lots of the animals are enjoying it. Okay, well, I'm very excited because we are getting closer, and I think we're going to see some swimming elephants this afternoon. Rolf has left his lions, he's on the move. I wonder what's going to pop in front of his car next.
Yes, well, I also wonder what's going to happen next with that action that we had earlier. I tell you, we're just going to want to see anything now, and it's quite funny how that works sometimes, because you can drive along for hours and you hardly see anything, and then all of a sudden it all breaks loose. So as you can see here, we're now heading down from the escarpment, now down towards the Mara River, and we're going through the grasslands here, and it is really, you've got to keep your eyes peeled all the way as you're going, because you saw there with those lions, when they lie down, they're almost invisible. So we need to be fully awake, fully aware, and looking in the grass here, looking in between the blades of grass and trying to see any movement. It does become quite tiring because you need to be awake throughout, otherwise you can miss just that little telltale sign of a little ear flick or a tail flick, or one of them moving their legs. Now Lilu, you're wondering if animals give birth year-round in the Mara. They still do have a particular cycle, a lot of the animals, Lilu. Like for instance, you've got the seasonal dropping of the impala, the zebra, the wildebeest, but for animals like elephant and giraffe, they're giving birth at random times, so not in a particular season. It's generally that animals that are quite gregarious and live in big numbers and in the open plains, they're the ones that drop the animals at the same time and at a particular season, because that makes survival that much easier, because there's a whole lot more babies all at the same time. So yes, some of them will get taken by predators, but there are a lot that make it through that stage of being very vulnerable as a youngster. So I'm still busy driving around, discovering and exploring all these little roads around the Mara Triangle, and it's been absolutely fascinating for me this afternoon with Archie. We found some beautiful big fig trees that we sat under and marveled at, with some markings of a leopard going up the trunks, and I've seen 1 or 2 that I would like to take you back to at some stage during my drive and have a look. But for the moment, I think we are going to head down a little bit towards the river, and we're going to try and see what we see in between. But it's been relatively hot this afternoon, so I do think that a lot of the animals are resting in the shade a bit. Now Bridget, you're wondering if you can get lost in the Mara. Well, it is quite difficult to get lost, because we've got, on the one hand, we've got the escarpment, and then on the other hand we have the Mara Mara River, which you can see down in front of us. So everything in between here is area that we can move around in. So it's quite difficult to get lost. We might get a little bit disorientated at some stage, not knowing which side Tanzania is, but once we have a look at the landmarks, it's very quickly realized exactly where we are in terms of that. So it's a lot easier to get lost or disorientated in Djuma because very flat there and very thick vegetation, so everything starts to look the same. And even in a small area, I can tell you that when I first got to Djuma, it took me a lot longer to realize where I was in terms of the road, as opposed to here out in the Mara, where you can see it's very plain and simple and obvious where you are in terms of the river or the escarpment. So, but I still don't know all these little roads. I'm learning them as I go. Right, so as I head now down towards the river, I think Taylor has got some big animals to show you. Not sure if they're in the river, but hopefully they're near water.
They're in the marsh, so yes, we also almost just got stuck again, which seems like a common trend at the moment in the Mara. And we have arrived at our elephant destination as promised. There are so many elephants around at the moment. There are plenty, lots and lots of different types of birds too. There's an abundance of animal life here. Look at that little one, that's so precious, so tiny. Lots of small ones too. Oh, do you know what I have seen, Manu? Just a bird that we don't often get to see. There's a saddle-billed stork just moving amongst the elephants. There we go. Very nice, very nice. It's always good to see saddle-billed storks. We do see them every now and then. It's not that they aren't common, it's just that it's so difficult to get them on camera all the time. And I think that between the greater white egrets, the cattle egrets, the saddle-billed storks, the black-headed herons, the grey herons, and hummerkops and all the other birds that like to live around sort of water areas would be enjoying having all the elephants around. Because sometimes what they will do is, as an elephant moves through, they might flush out a small terrapin, or a frog might leap to avoid being stood on by an elephant, but then it of course reveals itself and gives its hiding spot away, and it becomes very easy for some of these big birds with these spear-like beaks to just jab at them and catch whatever goodies might come shooting out of the grass, which is quite cool. There's a lion back there, Manu. You see that tree line? Right below, there's something yellow. That's it, hey? We're fully zoomed. There's something there, but it's probably just a tree stump. No, that's a lion, Manu. There is a lion. It's turning its head. Can you see it? No ways. Where is that? 12. Manu says 12:30. I'm going to look with my binoculars quickly. Oh my goodness, it's so far away. Okay, so we've got our eyes on our prize there. I think that's a lion. Shall we not waste any more time? Let's head in that direction, hey Manu? We're going to go there. Goodness, now to try and find it. So we'll have to stop a couple of times to just get our bearings. It's going to take us ages to get there. It'll probably take us maybe 20 minutes. That's very far away or so. We'll have to go all the way around and jump onto a couple of other roads. But at least we have an idea of where we're going, and I have a good feeling it's one of my favorite lionesses. They love it around here. Now Kermit, you're wondering how many elephants are often in a herd. It just depends. And now that there's so much food in the marsh, you're finding lots of elephants gathering. It's not to say that they're one herd. There could be smaller family groups, all are just moving around together, which typically happens when animals migrate or feed in really good areas. So out here, I would say an average size family group between maybe 15 and 30 elephants, somewhere around there. And then you do get bigger groups of elephants, like what we've just seen, where you might see 100 or 50 or 60 together. But like I said, they're not necessarily one herd. Could be 2 or 3 different family groups together, all just feeding, and they could split up at any time. Manu, you've got your bearings, hey? Okay, I'm just making sure that we don't lose sight of where we actually need to go. Ah, there's so many bumps. Ooh. There's a rosy-throated longclaw just here. Just in the grass. Let's see. It's just up over in there. And somewhere. There we go. Just down bottom right-hand corner of the screen. You got it. There we go. Very camouflaged, but now you can see why it's called a rosy-throated longclaw. When it does turn its head and look towards us, there is a reddish patch just on its throat. Nice. I don't think that looks like a female. It doesn't look particularly bright, and it doesn't look like it has a very thick black border around its throat either. But I could be mistaken, just because it has hidden very, very well in the grass. And that's my only concern at the moment about driving off-road, and I'm going to try and not do it as much, is because a lot of these birds are starting to nest. And for instance, the francolins, the spurfowls, the longclaws, the larks, they're all nesting in the grass, and it can be quite difficult to see their nests. And I know that any single guide would feel absolutely terrible if they were to drive over one. Obviously it wouldn't be intentional, so we can't off-road in this area. So rosy-throated longclaw, you are safe this time round from the tires of Mila. Okay, cool. We've actually jumped onto one of the main roads now. That's nice. Now, Apul, you're wondering, well, your wife is wondering and wanting to know how do I keep my hair looking so good considering all the sun and the dust. Wouldn't you like to know my secrets? I don't know. I have absolutely no idea. Actually, I can't even run my finger. I can barely run my fingers through my hair at the moment, as you can see, because it's been blowing around in the wind all day. So it's pretty knotty and quite tangled. And I didn't put a brush through it this afternoon because I've been out. Look at those logs that look just like lions. Just want to show you how these things play tricks with me. I suppose it's my shampoo and conditioner. I make sure I don't use any shampoos or conditioners with any sulfates or any harsh chemicals. I try and keep away from them because, like you've just said, my hair does, well, get covered in dust every single day, and the sun can be quite harsh. So I try not to get it in the sun too much, though. Although sometimes I need to put lemon juice on to make my hair blonder. It goes so dark. It's actually quite funny talking about hair. Have you seen how blonde Brent's hair's gone? It looks like he's gone for highlights. He hasn't though, but we like to tease him around camp that he snuck off on his last holiday in Uganda and he found a salon and managed to get his hair done. Jamie's hair is also going quite blonde. But I'm a bit sad that we have another blonde on the team now, Ralph. Hey, I thought I was going to be the only one. Anyways, maybe I should start linking over to Ralph as the blonde bombshell. Just jokes. We won't be doing that. So I think how we have to get to the lions, I think we've got to go up here and take a road that goes through this middle forest, which is actually a spot these lions are normally at. Okay. What a giggly afternoon. Right, and speaking of the blonde bombshell, I'm going to send you back across to Ralph into his car. He's still on a bumble, and I know he's looking far and wide for any sign of life.
Yes, Taylor, indeed. I am looking around everywhere I can. I'm starting to get into a little bit of these marshy areas, and well, in terms of the hair story, yes, I used to have a lot longer hair than I do now. It used to be down past my shoulders, and one of the reasons I cut it is because of exactly the concerns that everybody's got. When you got the dust and the sun and all of this stuff, you get very dry hair, a lot of split ends, and I also spend a lot of time in the ocean as well, so that doesn't help. And in the end, it's just much easier, especially for me as a guy, just to get rid of it. Yeah, it's a little bit too high maintenance for my liking, so it might look cool to some people, but for me it's more about practicality at the moment. And so Yes, I think that's enough about my hair. Let's get back to the job at hand, and that is that I'm still trying to find some more cats for us, and hopefully some that are on the move, on the hunt. And as you can see, terrain much different to that of Djuma, where we've got lots of marshy areas, and we don't really get that in Djuma. It has been particularly dry in South Africa over the last few years. We've got water restrictions still in the Western Cape, and they've actually been declared a provincial emergency because they are so dry, and I think people are now limited to less than 50 litres of water per day. So they have got a D-day of their water running out completely. Remember that in the Djuma area, Limpopo, Mpumalanga, those provinces, we have summer rainfall, and in the Western Cape they have a winter rainfall. So they haven't had rain during the winter, and we've now headed into summer, so they're at critical levels and they are really in dire straits. But that doesn't go to say that the rest of the country is out of the woods just yet either. We've had a little bit of rain, some of the dams have filled up, so it is looking a little bit better, but we still need a lot more rain in South Africa. Here in Kenya, it seems that there is enough water to go around and no problems around that particular subject. So looking off a little bit up in front of us, we're starting to get a little bit more treed area as we head towards the Mara River, and I'm hoping that we're going to find some different animals in there. I'm going to work my way along the forest a little bit. James, you're wondering when the fig trees will start producing their fruit in the Mara. They're starting to flower now already, so the fruit is going to come through in the early new year, so January, February months. And as I said, I want to return to those massive fig trees that Archie and I were taking a little bit of a break under a little bit earlier, and I was saying to Archie that if I was a leopard, I'd be hanging up in one of those trees because of the perfect shade that they throw, and they make for perfect lying up spots. All the branches that are branching out on a fig tree is just perfect for lying up in. So, you know, in other reserves, I very often look at those kind of trees. You've got to look at where there's nice, thick, horizontal branches that don't have thorns on them, because obviously a leopard wouldn't like to be lying up on thorns or an uncomfortable surface, and the fig trees are perfect for that. So we've got an elephant over there on the edge of the forest. And we're going to be heading towards that. It's not very easy to see while we are driving, as it's quite far off. Oh, there's quite a few of them there. I'm hoping that we might see some cats or black rhino, anything that might normally frequent a more thick bushy area. We've had that lovely encounter with the lions, so I'm not particularly worried about seeing lions right now. Now, Lady Starfire, you're wondering if I'm still on the way to the Tanzanian border. Not at the moment. We were heading that way earlier before we actually started the afternoon show. We continued from this morning's game drive. We carried on along the Mara River, and then we headed out towards the Tanzanian border. And then we headed up towards the Olololo escarpment, right near to the border, and then we started heading back in an easterly direction, which was where we then saw the lions make that little kill, and with the elephant that then chased them off. Now, there are some birds up in the tree to the left of the frame. Abby, you're asking how fast can an elephant run? Well, so that is faster than any person can run. I think Usain Bolt, who is the fastest man alive, he runs at about 33 kilometers an hour, which is probably around 18 or 20 miles an hour. So even the fastest man alive will not keep up with a leopard. Now that looks like it is a leopard-faced vulture. And we've got a couple of them up in the trees there. And sometimes good to just have a look when you spot vultures, because there might be a kill nearby. But there's only one or two of them there, so it's not looking too suspicious. And if there were any predators near to those elephants, like we've just witnessed, they would definitely make a racket and either chase them off or they would turn around and run, especially with this being a breeding herd and there's a couple of little youngsters there. Mommy would be very concerned about her baby, and she would definitely get out of there in a hurry if there was any predators. So that's what we witnessed. That's what elephants do around predators, and they will either run off or chase them. Now, Dom, you're wondering if it's going to rain because the clouds are looking ominous. I agree with you. I think we're going to get that afternoon shower again. It's building. We've got a lot of cumulus clouds, and remember when you get those mushroomy, not mushroomy, but it looks like in The Simpsons, those balloony type clouds, those are cumulus clouds, and as soon as they start mushrooming out and it starts to rain, then it becomes cumulonimbus. But cumulus clouds gather and build into cumulonimbus clouds, and that's what has been happening every afternoon here. Now, we've got a whole bunch of impala that are just gathered there, but there was some next to those elephants. And as I say, now we head down a little bit, complete change of vegetation, and it's actually a lot cooler here because you can feel almost the moisture with this marshy area, as opposed to up towards the escarpment where it's got quite a dry feel to it. And you don't even get as much greenery. The grass is quite fawny coloured, quite dry, almost like the lions are. Here you've got a little bit more of a green colour, green tinge to it because of that wetness in the marsh. So I'm wondering what is in store for us next. I know as we come down here, I'm going to have to start engaging diff lock. As I lose traction with my wheels, it's going to help us. That's what I'm doing when I'm playing with all these gear levers here in front, either taking low range and also putting the differential lock in place, and that just helps me. As long as I've got two wheels on the ground, I maintain traction. As you can see here, it does get a little bit hairy sometimes, which it's going to now. So hold on everybody, here we go. We're through. Good job, guys. Well done. Well done holding on there, Archie. Okay, folks, so it's been a day of action. Sorry about throwing that mud up into the back. Sorry, Archie, we're probably going to have to stop and clean up a little bit. So in the meantime, let's go over to Taylor, who's found something for you.
Never, Ralph. Just embrace the mud, smear it on your skin and enjoy the spa treatment. But here we are. Does this tree look familiar to any of you when we were sitting with the elephants? there was something sitting underneath the tree, and we weren't sure if it was a lion or not, but here we go. It is the lioness, and it is one of my favorite girls too. I don't know where her partner in crime is, however. Now, you can see she's fixated on something. There's a herd of elephants just off in front of her, quite a way in front of her, that are moving through some tall trees, having a nibble on the grass and any other small plants that may be growing underneath them. So she's just watching them. She's not really worried about them. They're so far away, I don't even think that those elephants would know that she's here, because there's not much wind going on at the moment, so her scent won't be blowing around too much. And this is a hot spot for warthogs out in this area, and that's what they're mainly feeding on at this time of the year. But I feel as though these two lionesses actually feed on warthogs throughout the entire year. I think that would be the bulk of their diet. The amount of warthog burrows that are out here, the soil's of course nice and soft, so it does help for them to dig in and widen burrows that maybe aardvarks and hyenas and other creatures would have dug, and they all utilize the same burrows. They just have to widen them in order to fit their body size. A lion doesn't do that, of course, although sometimes they do. They den in the burrows, but the lioness won't necessarily go in, but she will drop her little ones off inside there for a bit of shelter. But she's just sitting in the shade of that tree. Not that it has any leaves on it, but it has snapped, and the trunk of the tree is just casting a slight shadow there, which she's using. And she's just sort of gazing around at the moment. But that was a really, really good combination of camera work and then good spotting all around to see this lioness. I mean, we didn't know she was there at all. I love it when things like that work out. Now, Mary, a good question from you this afternoon. You're wondering, why is this lioness all on her own? And there's only two of them that are together. They've just got a small pride, just the two girls. They don't have any cubs either, and they live around here. So sometimes you see one on their own, the other one may have gone off somewhere. Oh, there she is, running just by in front of the elephants. Never mind, they're both here. You can see her just standing at 11 o'clock. Now you can see, start to spot her. You can see that tan color. So there we go. She's not on her own. Her partner in crime is here. Maybe the elephants have encouraged that lioness to hop up and move out of the way, or maybe they're going to go on a hunt. Who knows? But it'll be quite exciting either way, even if she just does come walking over towards us. They are such cool lionesses. They are... I don't know what it is that I like about them so much. They're very pretty. They're big girls too. They're nice and bulky, and they always put on such a good show for me whenever I see them. They're either trying to catch something, or they're at least walking and out into the open like they exactly are doing right now. And I've been fairly lucky over the last few days. Everything that I've wanted to see on safari, I've seen and more. So hopefully, well, if the drive carries on the way that it's going now, it's going to only get better and better. Maybe we'll get to see some more black rhino again. That would be quite nice. So she's just scanning at the moment. I'm just going to look behind me to see if there's anything. There are lots of animals, but very, very far away from where we are at the moment. Nothing relatively close by. There we go. And she's marching towards us. Okay, I'm going to send you across to Ralph to see if he's cleaned himself up or if he's decided to embrace the mud.
Well, thanks, Taylor. Yeah, no, we're still all full of mud. Luckily, it didn't get onto any of the equipment, so we're all right with that. But it did land up a little bit on us. But nonetheless, that's fine. A little bit of mud never hurt anybody, and you haven't been off-roading or 4x4ing unless you've got a bit of mud on you. And this is real mud. But this bird that we're looking at, it does seem like it is an African goshawk, I believe. It's a little bit in the silhouette, and with the screen and the sun as bright as it is, it's a bit difficult to see. I did identify a Dickinson's kestrel earlier, but he's however a little bit smaller, and he's got the yellow ring around the eye. This bird has got the ring on the inside of in the actual eye. and that's why I'm thinking it's possibly a African goshawk, but I'm not 100% sure. And right, well, we're heading in now into the forest, and we are going to start up again, Archie, and we're going to head along a little bit and see if we can still now, for me, find any of these predators and so on. So in the meantime, let's go back to Taylor and see how she's been getting along. Amakop. Okay. Alright folks, it seems that we haven't gone back to Taylor, we've still stayed with me. We're coming here through some of this croton, or orange leaved croton. And if I can grab a leaf, I'll just show you why it's called that. Now this tree is part of the feverberry tree. And where's the orange one gone now? Okay, I'll get a couple of the different ones, and there we go, Archie. So that's how they sort of, as they age a little bit, they turn orange, but all of them are quite discolorous, being very green in the front and being almost white on the back, and then we get a lot of them being orange as well. So part of the feverberry. Sorry Archie, if you just go up a little bit in front there, we've got a couple of emerald spotted wood doves, and he's got a lovely call. Listen. See that? You can see those lovely emerald spots on the side. Now that call of theirs, the Shangaan people and the Zulu people, they say that this emerald spotted wood dove is a very sad bird, and they're telling their life story. My mother has died, and my father is in jail, and I'm so sad, 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 sad. So that's the song that he sings, and the Zulus Shangaan saying that he's a very sad bird. Now, I don't know where they went, but hopefully Scott's not that sad, and hopefully he's going to be finding us some lovely scenic things out there in South Africa. So let's go over to him and see what he's up to.
Good afternoon everyone, and welcome to South Africa. My name is Scott, and I have the joy of welcoming not one, not two, but three schools on this afternoon's safari, and that's the Bartlett School and Fairfield and Newcastle Elementary. It is wonderful to have you guys with us, so please send through as many questions as you guys can, and not only myself but also Ralph and Taylor, who are up in Kenya, will also be able to answer as many questions as possible. Now, it's a very, very hot afternoon here in South Africa, and it's about 36 degrees Celsius, which is around close on 100 degrees Fahrenheit. So my plans are to head to a few waterholes in the hope that we will find some animals coming down to not only quench their thirst, but some of them actually like to swim and roll around in the mud. Elephants, buffalo, rhino and warthog are four animals that all like to wallow in the muddy waterholes. So I'm hoping we're going to get lucky and see them doing that. Other than that, though, anything is possible. We could bump into anything along the way. Where we are here is a very good place to see leopard, as well as lion, and where Ralph and Taylor are up in Kenya, it's a very good place to see lion and cheetah. And even though you do see cheetah here, and you do also see leopard up there, I think that's kind of the main difference, but one of the main differences between the predators that we get to see in the two different areas that we are exploring. You'll also notice the vegetation here is very thick, and out in the Mara it's very open grass. So you're going to have a great safari, I'm sure, because there's nobody else who can go on safari in two places at the same time other than people who are with us on Safari Live. And it sounds like you guys are going to head straight up to Kenya to go and see what Taylor is getting up to with some lions. I hope that they aren't sleeping, but in all likelihood they are.
I think you have a lucky charm, Scott, because as you said that the lion popped her head up. Welcome to, of course, all of the wonderful children who have joined us on this school drive adventure. I'm looking forward to you all asking me lots of questions and jumping back on board with me. My name is Taylor, and on camera with me is Manu, bringing you all the most amazing wildlife. But there's not just one lion here, there's actually a second one too. Now maybe this is the first time you're seeing a lion in the wild. How cool is that? How cool is it that I get to do this every single day? Now it's just these two girls here, so we will call them Lioness. And I cannot see any big males, any big boys. And there are a few male lions around here that do come past and visit the ladies. And they're looking quite excited now. The weather is starting to change. It has been so hot today in the Masai Mara. So we're in Kenya, we're not in South Africa like Scott, we're in a completely different country. And now that the wind is picking up, it's actually going to be very, very good hunting weather for these lions. This wind is going to help them. They'll be able to move a little bit quicker. Their scent will be hidden. And I think the question was from Scott, and you're wondering if it's supposed to rain. So not Scott, Tom. There we go, I just missed that. Sorry, Tom. Normally it rains every afternoon out here. It doesn't actually feel like it's going to rain right now. It's not particularly humid, and it don't look like there's any rain clouds building up directly above us. But with the wind picking up, it could quite easily blow in some big cumulonimbus clouds or nimbostratus clouds that are typically rain clouds, and then we'll have to zip up and go into the tent to be able to keep nice and dry. Look at those cool birds. Those are called cattle egrets, and they're flying around looking for, I suppose, maybe some buffalo, some elephants, some all sorts of things. What have I just found? I've got a worm for you. I'm going to try and catch it. No, come here. While you look at them fly, I also want to take you. You don't want to be in the car, caterpillar. Come on. Up you go in my hand. Cool, look what I've got for you. Oh, no. It's a wriggly worm. Hiya! Hey. You gotta be quick. No! I've put it on my phone so that you can see there's a rhino, in case we don't see one today. And that's a little caterpillar that somehow ended up in the car. And look how beautiful it is. It's black with yellow. It's going to go onto the front of my phone now. Sorry, there we go. I can't stop it from crawling. I don't really want to touch it because it's got long hairs on its body, and those could make me a bit itchy. So we won't be... Oh, no, never mind. It's now on my hand, and my hands are very dirty. I'm so sorry. I've had a very long day out in the bush today. They're covered in mud. Oh, no. What a disaster. I've got to do a bit of a rescue mission now. The lions are sitting over there. The caterpillar's under my shoes, and I hope it doesn't crawl in my shoe or up my shorts. So I'll try and rescue it, but I'm going to send you down to South Africa with Scott, who's driving around, and I hope he gets to show you a spotted cat.
Hello everyone, welcome. We've made it to the waterhole that we were hoping to find some elephants or buffalo at, but all we found were a pair of Egyptian geese and a few other birds who enjoy living along the water's edge. There's a comb duck over there lying on the edge, as well as a couple of blacksmith lapwings. And I wish I was a duck on a day like today. I would be swimming around this pond non-stop, and I'm actually very surprised that it's not doing just that. It's very, very hot this afternoon. Now, it's not to say that there aren't elephants that aren't going to come and have a drink a bit later on, but I think we're probably going to move on and check one or two of the other water holes. We've been parked here for about 5 minutes now and haven't heard any crashing branches or sounds of elephants nearby, so we're guessing that there aren't any too close. What has Senzo spotted there? Okay, there was an impala, a little antelope, that obviously disappeared behind those bushes, and maybe they'll come down for a drink. Ah, there's one there walking into frame. And another one, the first one that Senzo saw spot popped out. Now what's interesting is that the impala you get here are much smaller in terms of their horn size than the ones you get up in Kenya. So keep note of how these ones' horns are probably only a foot wide at the top of the horns, whereas the ones up in Kenya will probably be about 2 feet wide between the top two tips. So that's a different subspecies you get up there. Very good. We just got a question through from Dominic. I think you would like to know what is the best time to do birding, if I got the question correct. And basically it all depends on the area you are in as well as the birds you are hoping to find. Water birds can often be seen for kind of long periods of time in and around swamps or ponds like this, but as a general rule, the early morning and late evening are your best times for any kind of wilderness activity and game viewing, be it birds, mammals, reptiles. I think most animals like to move in that kind of dusk and dawn period, and at least that's when I've noticed my best results. Of course, there are some outliers that like moving in the middle of the day, and some interesting things do happen in the middle of the day, like elephants coming to swim in ponds like this when it is very hot. But the early morning and late evening, I think, are certainly going to be generally your best bets, especially for birding. Very good. Well, we're going to send you from this black lapwing, who's only a foot off the ground, all the way up to Kenya with Ralph, who's got one of the giants of Africa.
Yes, thanks, Scott. And it's definitely one of the giants of Africa, with it being the tallest of all the mammals, and the giraffe. And this one being a Maasai giraffe. But this one is quite a young one, so it's not an adult, it is a little bit younger. And he's watching something off in the distance there, maybe a little bit nervous, as giraffe can be, because they're also worried about lions and leopards coming to chase them around. But as we shift over, we do have some bigger ones here. That one is more of an adult, a little bit older than the one we were looking at before, but you can see the lovely colors of the giraffe, quite dark brown with almost a white color in between. And here you can see this giraffe has been feeding on leaves off the trees, and now it's chewing the leaves, it swallows them. And then it regurgitates it, or gets it back into its mouth, chews it, and swallows it down. Now, there's been a question that's come through about how many different animals do we see on a game drive. Well, that all depends, because every game drive is different. Sometimes we see a lot of animals, if we are lucky, and other times it can seem a little bit quiet. But that all depends on how much the animals want to show themselves. So if they don't want to show themselves and they're feeling a little bit off, then they can also go and hide, much to do inside that thick trees and near to the river. So we then sometimes don't see much at all. But an animal as big as a giraffe, it's quite difficult for him to hide, so we generally do spot the giraffe. Now, Kendra, you're asking the question, how tall is a giraffe? Well, they do get a little taller than this giraffe that we are looking at the moment, but they get up to about 5 or 6 yards. So it's quite tall. We say 5 meters. It's more or less 5 yards as well, and that's a very tall person. If you say that 8 foot is 2 meters, 8, 16, 24, we're looking at almost 25 foot. It's really tall. So let's start up, let's drive along a little bit, let's see what else we can find. These giraffe have been very nice for us. Now, Josiah, you're asking, what do the giraffe eat? Josiah, mostly they'll eat on leaves off of the tree, and they do like to eat those small little leaves that we generally see on the acacia or vachellia trees. You know, the ones that you would see on the Lion King, and what gives you a real impression of Africa. They've got lots of thorns on them, the white thorns, and giraffe, that is their favorite food. But they will also eat a little bit of grass, but they've got to extend their neck down to the ground, which is quite a stretch for them. So they prefer to keep their head up, and they're the ones that are eating the trees, leaves right at the top. Because of their long neck, it makes it very easy for them to reach to the top of trees. Now, what have we got in the road here? That looks like a piggy, a very fat one at that, and there's some little piglets running behind. Let's see if we can get a little bit closer. Oh, that's either mom or dad coming up behind. We'll maybe get a little bit closer and be able to have a better view of them. They sometimes are quite scared of the cars and they run off quite quickly, but let's see if we can have a look there. No, they've disappeared off into the grass. Okay, so let's move on. We've got another exciting animal on the road, and that is a crowned crane. Come and look at this bird. It's a very pretty looking birdie, that. Have a look at that, guys. Now, Julia, you're wondering, do the animals eat the grass? Is it always so short? Well, Julia, it depends. When we have a lot of the zebra and wildebeest around, they do tend to keep the grass rather short. And if we listen carefully, we can hear this crane doing his call, with his little neck movement there. He's probably calling his mate or his girlfriend. And yes, the animals do tend to help keep the grass quite short, but each year we do have new grass growing after the rains have come. So, and that's a lovely bird. You know, these birds, they move through the grass. They do make their nests in the grass. Alright, so we're going to watch this crowned crane, one of the ground birds, for a little while longer. But while we do that, let's send you over to Taylor and see what she has been able to find.
We left our 2 lionesses because they were fast asleep in the long grass and we couldn't see them anymore, but in a little while I'm hopefully going to have some more lions for you, because I'm going to check a spot where I found a pride. So that's what you call a family of lions, is a pride of lions, and there are 3 girls, 3 moms and 7 young cubs, so 7 little lions. And I think you would quite like to see little lions, wouldn't you? So we're going to head in that direction and Hopefully we'll be able to show you some more. Maybe we'll see some elephants. Maybe we'll see the elephants swimming or eating or doing something exciting. We could also possibly see maybe some more warthogs, because those warthogs that you saw with Ralph are very, very cute, and they also like the mud. And the area that we're going to is actually called 4x4. So that means I'm probably going to have to engage the car into 4x4 too to be able to drive through there. Otherwise it's going to be a bit tricky, and then I might get stuck. I'm the queen of getting stuck in the mud too, but maybe my friend Maurice, the elephant, will be able to help me, because elephants are big and strong, and I reckon he'd probably be able to pull me out if I asked him very, very nicely. But sometimes he can be a bit of a, I don't want him to hear it, a bit of a grumpy pants. So we'll just see. Maurice, are you going to be excited today? I'm going to put him back in his little, this is where he lives, there, and in my camera box, where you can keep out of the rain. So we'll keep driving around and having a look here. I see some cars moving about, so maybe there's some lions. Scott is down in the heat of the Sabi sand searching for all things big and small. Maybe you should tell him what animal you'd like to see next.
Well, we came racing away from a waterhole to the area that these impala are in, and we could hear from about a mile away their loud snorting alarm call, which they would ordinarily let out once they've seen a predator. Now, as we arrived onto the scene, they started calming down, so I'm not too sure if whatever predator was slunk off once it was detected, because ordinarily a lot of the times predators will like to try and get away before more animals are alerted to their presence. But we are going to keep looking around here. Hopefully we will be able to find a leopard maybe lying in the shade nearby here. Even though the impala have stopped alarm calling, it doesn't mean that the predator isn't here somewhere. And what's important to remember is that once the predator has been spotted and it loses its elements of surprise, then it becomes almost impossible for most predators to catch their food. So as soon as the impala saw, I'm guessing, a leopard, they would have started shouting, and then the leopard would have thought, okay, let me give up and move out of this area. But I just want to make sure the leopard's not here somewhere. I could be wrong, and maybe the impala just had a bit of a false alarm. I can also just make sure that there's no leopard tracks on the ground. So it's not only our ears we use, but also our eyes to make sure that we can find any tracks or signs of where these animals may have gone. No immediate sign of any tracks here. Bosbo, you would like to know, why is it that the impala have got such long horns? Well, a lot of the antelope have got horns, especially the men, and it's for fighting over ladies. And that's the main reason why the antelope do have horns. It's not really to defend themselves against predators, but from time to time they will be, or certain species actually will use their horns to try and defend their youngsters that might be caught by a lion, leopard or cheetah. It was so exciting rushing into this area when we heard those alarm calls, and I'm quite sad that we haven't come up with a leopard, but it's not over yet. Hopefully there's one sneaking around in this thick bush somewhere, possibly up in the trees ahead of us on a hot day. This leopards will like to hang out in the trees because there's a bit of a breeze there. And that's their favorite tree to sleep in. Well, this kind of a tree is called the marula tree, and the reason why it's one of their favorite trees is because it's got these very big horizontal branches. So once they've climbed up, they can lie on a nice horizontal branch. They're quite thick and comfortable. So it's always important to search up in the trees for leopard, down on the ground, and in all the places you're really feeling lucky. Monica, you'd like to know if impala are related to deer, and no, they're quite different to deer in that we don't have any deer that live in Africa. We have lots of different types of antelope and gazelle, and one of the main differences between deer and antelope and gazelles is that deer will have antlers, not horns, and those antlers grow every year for the males, and then they fall off at the end of the rutting season, and then they regrow the next year even bigger than the year before. But for our antelope and gazelles, their horns will grow quite slowly throughout their life, and they will never fall off. And it's quite a different material and substance that makes up the horn of our antelopes compared to the antler of your deers. So they look similar, but they're quite a lot different. I guess a pronghorn would be a kind of a antelope that you guys get in America. That would be similar to some of our African antelopes, and it's one of the fastest antelopes in the world, the pronghorn. I think it is the fastest, possibly. Ah, Luke, you ask questions that the impalas wouldn't like to hear you asking because they get eaten by just about everything. Luke was wondering what eats impalas. Lions, leopards, cheetah, even some birds. Some big eagles will catch baby impala. Some of the smaller cats that we get in this area called caracal and serval, which is kind of like a bobcat, you could say. They'll also be able to catch impala. Pythons, big snakes catch baby impala from time to time. Who am I forgetting about? Crocodiles. So the impala is probably one of the most successful antelope in this area, Luke, which means we see more of them than any other. And because they're not too big and not too dangerous for the predators to catch, you tend to find a lot of different predators eating them. So don't wish that you were an impala unless you want to be permanently afraid that something is going to eat you. See, now I can hear a squirrel alarm calling. What is going on here? We're going to have to do some off-roading. The combination of the impala's alarm calls earlier plus these squirrels, and I can hear 2 squirrels now alarm calling, not just one. Hold tight, everyone. And while I work our way through this thick bush to try and find what I'm guessing could be a leopard, we're going to send you across to Taylor, who's found another predator.
Look at what we've got. We've got jackal pups. They're like foxes, I suppose. And they're surrounding the car. It's the closest I've ever been to them. This is really, really, really cool. Look how close we are. And they are so relaxed. Now normally they're very, very shy creatures. And I just want to sit here. There's another one walking there, but this one is probably the best one. No, now we can't even see it. It's so close. I'm just joking. I couldn't resist doing that. Look at it. They're so cool. And these are youngsters, so they're just getting to the age now where they're going to be leaving home. They're very curious. They're going to start hunting for themselves and scavenging. Oh, that's a big yawn. Are you ready to go to bed? Well, I think this one has probably been sleeping for most of the day. Oh my gosh, they're everywhere. This is so cool. I've never had, there's 3 of them, and they basically have surrounded the car. One's gone behind, the other one was next to us, and then there's the 3rd one just walking around. So they'll be eating lots of different things, from grasshoppers to crickets to frogs to rats and mice, and then they will also scavenge. So if a lion or something has killed a big animal, then once they're finished, they will go in and try and eat the leftovers. I think something is biting this little jackal at the moment. So these are black-backed jackals. They're a couple of months old, probably around... Oh, did you hear that? Very excited. Very keen on hunting as well. That sounded just like a dog. This is so cool. I've never seen a jackal do this before. Aren't you guys precious? Now, Dan, you're wondering if the jackal is related to wolves, but that was many, many years ago. Look how curious it is. Oh, it's a pity that's as far as the camera can go. Let me quickly try and reposition. Let me see if it's going to come out again. This is amazing. They're all behind us at the moment. I don't know if I want to start the car though, because I think I'm going to scare them. And this is a very special sighting to have them so close. Let's see if they're going to come around again. I think they are. Let me just check around here. We've just got to keep looking. But they live around here. Okay, let me quickly turn around. Now I've also got a fly biting me. Okay, let me do this. There they are. Oh, there's 4 of them. There's not actually 3 pups. Wait, sorry. Here you can see us in the car. Hello. Look at us. There's me waving. And there they all are. This is incredible. This is really a special moment out here. Now, I'm very lucky because I get to see lots of these animals all the time. Going to be very, very excited to be watching this with all of you who have joined in from the schools today. Oh, another big yawn. Just acting just like dogs. I think they're being a bit naughty because I wonder where mom and dad are. They won't be too far. They'll still be looking after these youngsters. They haven't quite packed their bags and getting ready to leave home. They're just a bit curious and they won't stay in the den when they're told to stay in the den. So that's where they would live. And their den would be a type of a burrow that another animal would have dug.